Okay, good morning to all. This is Dr. Mahesh M. Onjeri, Assistant Professor from Department of Management Studies, SDM College of Engineering and Technology, Dharwad. I welcome you all to Corporate Finance online class, okay, for MBA Semester 2 students. So this is the fifth class, okay, for Unit 3, okay, in chapter number 11, Cost of Capital. So in the last 4 sessions, we have solved numericals on how to compute specific costs. Okay, so when I say specific costs, so far we have learned cost of debt, okay, or debentures. So in that there were two types. One of the cost of perpetual or irredeemable debt, and within that again cost of debt before tax, as well as the cost of debt after tax, or it is called tax adjusted cost of debt. Then so we learned the second type of debt, cost of redeemable debt, where the principal amount is repaid after certain period. Okay, so we learned how to compute the cost of redeemable debt. So in cost of debt, one was cost of irredeemable debt before tax and after tax, and second type was cost of redeemable debt. Then after which we learned cost of preference shares. Okay, so there again two types, cost of irredeemable preference shares or cost of irredeemable perpetual security. Okay, then followed by, and again, so in that cost of perpetual preference capital, when the preference shares are issued at par, issued at premium, and issued at discount, we learned how to compute cost of preference capital. Then in second type, we also learned how to compute cost of redeemable preference capital. I think this is where, okay, from where we have to continue today. Okay, but beyond it, we have also learned how to compute cost of equity capital using dividend approach and capital asset pricing model. So in case of specific costs, now only one component is remaining, okay, which is cost of preference shares. So in my previous class, at the end of previous class, I computed cost of irredeemable preference shares or cost of perpetual security. So I hope you remember the equation KP is equal to DP divided by PO into 1 minus F. So again, cost of preference shares, irredeemable preference shares, okay, when they are issued at par, issued at premium, and issued at discount, we have learned. So among specific costs, the last part remaining now is cost of redeemable preference capital. Okay, so we'll directly go ahead to the simple numerical problem to understand how to compute cost of redeemable preference capital. Means, so whatever the denomination of the preference share held by the preference shareholders, okay, that value will be refunded to the preference shareholders at the end of certain period. Okay, say for example, in this case, ABC Limited has issued 11% preference shares. 11% means in case of preference shares, the rate of dividend is always fixed. Okay, so coupon rate also it is called. Then ABC Limited issued 11% preference shares of the face value of 100 rupees. Okay, each to be redeemed after 10 years. So it means, so the preference shareholder of this company who has purchased, let us say, one preference share of 100 rupee, okay, so he will get 11% dividend each year on his one share for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, okay, the shareholder will get his principal amount, which is 100 rupees back. So that is what we say redeemable preference capital. So when the principal amount is repaid at the end of certain years, how to compute cost of redeemable preference capital, that is what we are going to learn. So in example 11.6, ABC Limited has issued 11% preference shares of the face value of 100 rupees each, and to be redeemed after 10 years. So flotation costs is expected to be 5% of the face value, and determine the cost of preference shares in this case, where the face value of the preference shares is redeemable or refunded after 10 years. So for which we are going to use a different equation altogether. So which you can see carefully. KP is the cost of preference shares. KP is equal to D plus into bracket small f divided by NM bracket complete whole divided by RV plus SV divided by 2. So here RV when we say, so you already can remember. See, RV is nothing but a redeemable value. Okay. So in this case, it is not debenture. In this case, it is preference shares. Okay. So RV is redeemable value of preference shares. So in our example, the redeemable value of preference shares is 100 rupees. SV is net sale proceeds from issue of preference shares. Okay. So SV is net sale proceeds from issue of preference shares. Okay, so I'll go ahead with the data given. RV is redeemable value of the preference shares. So which is 100 rupees. So we have mentioned the data here as given in the problem. SV is net sale proceed from issue of preference shares. So face value is 100 rupee minus flotation cost at 5%. So 5% of 100 rupee is 5 rupees. So 100 minus 5 is SV. Yes, net sale proceeds of from issue of preference shares is 95 rupees per share. NM is okay duration of the preference shares, which is 10 years, right, in terms of years. Then D is dividend in amount, okay, in rupee amount. So dividend rate is 11%. So 11% of 100 is 11 rupees. Small f is flotation cost, 5% of 100 rupee, which is 5. So once we put all this data into the equation and we simplify, we get the cost of redeemable preference shares. So D, okay, that is the dividend amount is 11 rupees plus into bracket small f flotation cost 5 rupees divided by NM term of the preference capital 10 rupees whole divided by RV, okay, redeemable value, the amount to be refunded at the end of 10 years is 100 rupees plus SV net sale proceeds from issue of preference shares, which is 95. So divided by 2. Okay, so once we simplify, we arrive at the answer 0. Okay, 1179. So to it is into decimal, so to convert into percentage, we can multiply that by 100. So the answer what we get is 11.79% is the cost of redeemable preference capital in this example. Okay, so I hope this was quite easy to understand. Okay, so this was the last specific cost, though not last, the retained earnings are also there. Okay, but before that, before we are numericals in specific costs are over now. So otherwise I'll complete the okay, theory part I'll go ahead later. For cost of retained earnings I'll go later. So if you have any doubts in this example, cost of redeemable preference capital, so I will let you know. And also this PDF format is already, PDF file is already shared with you. So now for the upcoming numericals on weighted average cost of capital, so I will share it after the classes. So I'm going to unmute you all. Okay. So immediately please remember, okay, those who do not have any questions or doubts, within 2 or 3 seconds kindly mute your audio, and those students who have a question or doubt, you can ask. And after clarifying your doubt, please remember to mute your audio. Those who do not have any questions, please mute your audio immediately.
Sir,
Yes.
sir, this face value and RV are one and the same, no, sir?
Face value and RV, yes.
Like those both are one and the same.
In this example, they are one and the same. But pay attention.
Okay.
1 minute.
Yes, sir.
Kindly, those students who do not have questions, mute your audio, please. Okay. See now, RV is a redeemable value.
Yes, sir.
RV is redeemable value of preference shares in this case.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you should know that the debentures or okay, preference shares can be redeemed even at a discount or premium.
Yes, sir.
So if I say redeemed at 5% discount, means only 95 rupee has been
95
repaid.
taken.
Okay.
Yes.
But in this case, to keep it simple, it is not given. So RV in this case is face value itself. Okay.
Okay, sir. If it's mentioned, then we have to take RV as 95 if it is given.
Yes, correct. Only in that case.
Okay, sir.
So you need to read the question carefully
Question.
every time.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next
Okay.
question. Next question. Okay, so I hope it was easy for you all to understand how to compute cost of redeemable preference capital. Okay, so now I'll go ahead with out. Okay, about the cost of retained earnings. Okay, so I'm going to mute you all again. Even if you have any questions remaining, you can call me after the classes. No problem. Akshay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then the screen is visible, PPT.
Yes, sir. Visible, sir.
Okay, thank you. I will continue again. Okay, so I'd just like to take you for a quick recap. So if you remember, so cost of capital, or which is also called as the weighted average cost of capital. It is the combined cost of all specific costs associated with each source of finance. So computation of cost of capital or weighted average cost of capital involves two steps. So we are still into step one, computation of specific costs of different sources of finance. Then, so these are the specific costs or the different sources of finance from which a company raises capital. So from which we have already learned cost of debt, cost of irredeemable debt before tax, after tax, cost of redeemable debt, then cost of preference shares, cost of irredeemable preference shares, as well as the cost of redeemable preference shares, cost of equity capital using dividend approach, as well as a capital asset pricing model approach. Now what is remaining is cost of retained earnings. So we'll move to that part. Okay. So this is the last one in specific costs, cost of retained earnings. So for a non-commerce students, try to understand, okay, that once the company, okay, makes profits, so let us say earnings after taxes, okay, and the preference dividend is also paid. After paying the preference dividend, whatever amount is remaining, okay, that is available for distribution as a dividend to equity shareholders. But generally, all the remaining profit will not be distributed as dividend to equity shareholders. Some part of it, the company prefers to retain as reserves and surpluses, so that the company can make use of that source of finance, okay, as an internal source of finance, okay, when it is difficult for them to raise capital from external sources. So that is what is called as retained earnings. For a layman simple meaning, okay, it's a savings of the company. That's it. So retained earnings have implication for shareholders of a firm, because if earnings were not retained, they would have been paid to the equity shareholders as dividends. It is quite easy to understand. The dividends foregone by the equity shareholders are in fact an opportunity cost. It means if those the retained earnings would have been distributed to equity shareholders as dividends, they would have further invested it in some good opportunity and they would have earned a rate of return. So that's why it is. But now, since that amount is retained by the company as the reserves and surpluses, the equity shareholders have foregone that opportunity. That's why it is called as an opportunity cost. Thus, retained earnings involve opportunity cost. In other words, the firm is implicitly required to earn an equal return on retained earnings that would have been earned by the shareholders. This is the cost of retained earnings. Okay, the purpose for which earnings are retained by the company are for the purpose of reinvestment. Okay, the reason why a company retains earnings are for the purpose of reinvestment. Okay, then what is the cost of retained earnings in that case? The company should earn an equal return on retained earnings. Okay, when the company reinvests those retained earnings, what rate of return it should earn? It should earn a rate, okay, equal to that would have been earned by the shareholders. Let us say, for example, okay, in simple example, okay, if some X amount was retained by the firm, but let us say if that X amount would have been distributed as a dividend to equity shareholders, and these equity shareholders would have invested, okay, that money into some, okay, let us say saving, okay, investment opportunity, and from that the equity shareholders would have earned, let us say, 10% rate of return. Okay, so in that case, the company, the firm, is required to earn an equal return on retained earnings that would have been earned by the shareholders, equity shareholders, by investing the same amount in some external opportunities. So in my oral example, it is 10%. So the firm should earn minimum 10% rate of return on its investment, okay, of the retained earnings. So this is the cost of retained earnings. Okay. The alternative use of retained earnings is based on external yield criterion. That is what I said. So where the equity shareholders would have invested it externally and earned a rate of return. So the firm is required to earn that equal rate of return on okay, that project which is financed by the retained earnings. The opportunity cost of retained earnings is the rate of return that could be earned by investing the funds in another enterprise by the firm. Okay. The rate of return thus earned constitutes the opportunity cost of retained earnings. Okay, so this is all conceptually, you need to know all these things. But for our calculation purpose, this paragraph is more important. So please pay attention. Such a return would give the cost of retained earnings, okay, KR, okay, it is denoted by KR. Such a return would give the cost of retained earnings KR, and KR under the assumption of external yield criterion would be approximately KE, cost of equity capital. It means, okay, pay attention everybody, cost of retained earnings will be equal to cost of equity capital. So I repeat, so cost of retained earnings would be equal to cost of retained earnings. Cost of retained earnings will be equal to, okay, cost of equity capital. So in the problem, okay, if you see that equity capital X amount, okay, then so from retained earnings, okay, some X amount, okay. So in that case, if they have not given cost of, okay, retained earnings, but if they have given, even the problem, if it is given cost of equity capital, we have to consider the same. Okay, so whatever is given for cost of equity, so same thing we have to consider for cost of retained earnings. So please remember, cost of retained earnings is equal to cost of equity capital. Okay, so now once we complete all the four okay, types of specific costs, how to compute cost of debt, cost of preference shares, cost of equity shares, and cost of retained earnings, we are moving on to the second step of computation of cost of capital. So now please pay attention. Okay, so theoretically very beautifully it is explained before we solve numerical problems. So it will become very easy for you to solve the numericals if you understand these steps and theory part. So now step 2 of computation of cost of capital. So if you can recall, I can take you back quickly. So computation of cost of capital involves 2 steps. Just now we completed with cost of retained earnings is equal to cost of equity capital. That is what we learned. Okay, so we completed step 1, computation of specific costs of different sources of finance. Now step 2, okay, calculation of the overall cost of capital by combining specific costs. So let us see how these specific costs are combined to arrive at cost of capital. So we are moving on to step 2 now. Okay, so step 2 involves calculation of overall cost of capital by combining the specific costs. So there is a method, okay, for combining the specific costs. So cost of capital means the overall composite cost of capital defined as weighted average cost of each specific type of fund. So weights here mean, I gave you a simple example. Let us say out of 1000 crore rupee capital raised, if 500 crore is raised from equity shares, 250 crore is raised from preference shares, and another 250 crore is raised from debentures. It means the weightage of equity capital in the total capital is 50%. Then the weightage of preference capital in the overall capital is 25%. Okay, or we can also rewrite it in decimal as 0.25. Then the weightage of debentures in the overall capital is 25%. We can rewrite it as 0.25. So that is what is meant by weighted average. So cost of capital means the overall composite cost of capital defined as weighted average cost of each specific type of fund. So let us learn more about weighted average cost of capital. So when we write it by short form WACC, please you need to remember, even in examination, okay, in old VTU examination, question papers also it is observed. Okay, many of the short terms are only given like NPV, for example, IRR, for example. So you should be able to recall. So WACC means weighted average cost of capital. Weighted average cost of capital is the expected average future of cost of funds. Weighted average cost of capital is the expected average future cost of funds over the long run found by weighing the cost of each specific type of capital by its proportion in the firm's capital structure. This is exactly what I explained previously. The use of weighted average is warranted by the fact that the proportion of various sources of funds in the capital structure of a firm are different. So just recall the example I gave. Out of 1000 crore rupee capital raised, the proportion of various sources of funds were different, like 50% equity, 25% preference, and 25% debentures. To be representative, therefore, the overall cost of capital should take into account the relative proportions of different sources, and hence it's called as weighted average. So 0.5 is the weightage of equity capital, 0.25 is the weight of preference capital, and 0.25 is the weightage of debenture capital in my oral example. That is what it means exactly. Then overall cost of capital is symbolically represented by KO. Okay, so overall cost of capital is symbolically represented by KO. Steps involved in computation of overall cost of capital. So there are some sub steps in step 2. So these are the sub steps involved in computation of overall cost of capital. So first sub step is assigning weights to specific costs. So in my oral example, 0.5 is the weightage of equity capital, 0.25 is the weightage of preference capital, and 0.25 is the weightage of debentures. Multiplying the cost of each source by the appropriate weights. Say for example, the cost of equity is 10%. So 0.5 into 0.1. 10% will be converted into decimals, it will become 0.1. And let us say cost of preference shares is 12%. So when we convert it into decimal, it will become 0.12. So 0.25 weightage into cost of preference capital 0.12 is equal to. So this way, multiply the cost of each source by the appropriate weights. then dividing the total weighted cost. Then we are going to total the weighted cost, okay, the product of source multiplied by weights. Cost of source multiplied by weights is the product, which is called as the weighted cost. So we're going to total the column, which is called as the total weighted cost. So this total weighted cost will be divided by the total weights. So we arrive at the weighted average cost of capital. So this will become more easy for you when we solve the numericals. Okay, but learning this will enable you to understand the solutions to numerical problems as well. So this is sub-step, assigning weights to the specific costs. Sub-step 1 is assigning weights to specific costs. Okay, so in that we are going to learn what are the different types of weights, okay, which are considered while assigning weights to different sources of capital. So step 1, sub-step 1, assignment of weights. The aspects relevant to the selection of appropriate weights are, there are two types of weights which can be considered, okay, to assign the weights: marginal weights and historical weights. Okay, so marginal weights, the use of marginal weights involves weighing the specific costs by the proportion of each type of fund to the total funds to be raised. Okay, so marginal costs are nothing but if when a company already has capital structure. So when a firm has already a capital structure, let us say in my oral example what I said, okay, a company has a capital of 1000 crore rupee. Imagine a company has a capital of 1000 crore rupee, of which 500 crore is raised from equity, 250 crore is raised from preference shares, and 250 crore is raised from debentures. Okay, so the proportion of equity capital is 50%, preference capital is 25%, and debentures is 25%. So this already exists. Okay, this is what is called as marginal weights. The existing capital structure is called as marginal weights, or the existing proportion of each type of funds in the total funds is called as marginal weights. Okay, and the company can consider this proportion, okay, or weights while raising additional capital. Let us say the company is planning to raise additional capital of another 500 crore rupees. Okay, it means using the same proportion, out of 500 crore, 250 crore rupee will be raised through equity capital, and 125 crore rupee will be raised through preference capital, and another 125 crore rupee will be raised through debentures. So that is what exactly is meant by marginal weights. The merits of marginal weights include the use of marginal weights is more attended to the actual process of financing the project, as already company has its capital structure in the same proportion. Demerit is this approach does not consider the long-term implications of the firm's current financing. Okay, for example, the cost of the proportion of debentures. The proportion of debentures was only 25%, but the debt capital is cheaper than equity capital. So gradually, if the company can increase the proportion of debt capital in the total capital, it would bring down the cost of capital. But in this method of assigning weights, this approach does not consider the long-term implications of the firm's current financing. Okay, so before I move on to historical weights, I think the meeting is coming to an end now. Okay, so I have made some settings. Okay, so due to which I think the moment a student joins, okay, the class time is beginning. I have enabled the students to join before I join. I think that time is also being considered in the total time of 40 minutes. So in next class, not today, day after tomorrow, I will reset the settings again. Okay, but if you have any questions, you can ask me at the beginning of second session. So I'll simply go ahead with these weights, historical weights. I repeat, if you have any questions, you can ask me at the beginning of second session. And one request to students, kindly do not join until I start, okay? Because the time is started ticking the moment any first student joins. So please, I remind you, do not join unless I start the class, next class, this immediate next class. Thank you. Now I'll continue. So second types of weights, okay? The second types of weights which can be used are historical weights while assigning the weights. So historical weights. Here, the relative proportions of various sources of funds to the existing capital structure are used to assign weights. Okay. The basis of weighing system is the funds already employed by the firm. Okay. The way I told, okay, in case of marginal weights, the basis of weighing system is the funds already employed by the firm. The use of historical weights is based on the assumption that the firm's existing capital structure is optimal. Sorry, it's not optional. It is optimal. I repeat, it is not optional. It is